So what I want to do now, just before we get right into Photoshop, here's a couple of pictures, portraits that really show all of the elements of photography that I was talking about before. These are all very, very famous pictures. Might know some of them, you might not. Most of them are black and white, believe it or not. And that's because a lot of serious photographers, well, color's hard. Color's really hard. And for a long time with color film, in fact, what you did with color film was astonishing, and it was very limiting. And I'll get into that, and I'll tell you why it was limiting and how digital photography has completely changed that part of photography. But trust me when I say that for different kinds of light, you needed to have different kinds of film. And that's very, very tricky in a lot of situations to have to switch out your film while you're in the middle of taking pictures. This is Henri Cartier-Bresson, one of the most famous photographers of all time. He was a French photographer, one of the founders of Magnum Photo, and he liked to take pictures that showed what he would call the decisive moment. And if you look at this picture, you'll see all of the things we talked about in terms of motion, telling a story, composition, converging lines, what's in focus, what isn't in focus. And you notice how that stairway brings your eye right to the bicycle. It's a pretty great picture that looks like a snapshot at first, but it's actually really, really beautifully composed. He was known for his composition. This is also a very, very famous Henri Cartier-Bresson picture of a person jumping over a puddle. And look at the reflections, the balance you get, but also the rule of thirds is there, right? The whole picture is divided into thirds. Half of it is black, though. Half of it is white. The dividing line goes along the diagonal. So there's a lot of dynamism in this picture. And he's running out of the frame, which makes you wonder where's he going, right? Great picture. Here's another one of my very, very favorite ones. It's a picture of the Minamata disease, mercury poisoning in Japan. It's a documentary. Very, very famous picture. It's a little exploitative, people feel these days, but it's, again, a classic portrait, documentary portrait by Eugene Smith. And it's one of the most powerful portraits I've ever seen. The play of light and shadow, the pose of this woman bathing her son who has been tragically deformed by mercury poisoning in the 1940s, 50s in Japan, and the fact that it's almost pietà, right? If you know the history of art, this is also sort of citing all those pictures of Mary and Christ in a artistic tradition that calls forth a whole story that you wouldn't normally see, but it's also this incredibly tragic documentary picture, right? Here's a very, very famous advertising portrait. I don't know whether you know this one or not. It's from the 80s. It's called Natasha, Kinski, and the Snake. It was done by Richard Avedon, and it's a pretty amazing portrait. I have to look and see if he was taking it color and black and white, or if this is a colored black and white. But you can see the portrait itself. I think this is the actual one from the 80s in black and white. Look at the snake's tongue. I mean, talk about that is the gesture and the moment in this picture, right? It's composed beautifully. It's an iconic portrait, but it's also a perfect example of photography freezing time and getting something just right to tell, again, a story. This is by US photographer Greg Gorman, who's taken many, 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 many archetypal photos of celebrities in the 20th century and in the 21st century. I had the opportunity and pleasure of studying with Greg for a week and a half. And he has taken many pictures of people you would recognize right away. This is Andy Warhol, but all kinds of very, very famous photographs were taken by Greg Gorman, and he has his own way of abstracting people. You can see the lighting here, though, is not far off Rembrandt lighting, but the tones in the black and white are really, really interesting. and served to create a lot of mystery around that picture of Andy Warhol. This is a very, very famous picture done by a Canadian photographer in Ottawa named Joseph Karsh. And the story goes, this is a wartime portrait of Winston Churchill when the war was not won, and Churchill was still fighting against the Nazis, in England, the leader of England, which was still free, British and the British Isles and Commonwealth. He famously liked to smoke cigars, and the story goes that Karsh got this picture of grim determination and fortitude from Churchill by stealing his cigar just before he snapped the shutter. So he set it up, and then he stole the cigar, and this is the picture he got of Churchill. There's other pictures of him looking happy, but this is him looking pissed off, and that's the perfect picture, and it tells a story, right? These last pictures are by Annie Leibovitz, probably the most popular and most successful portrait photographer, American portrait photographer. She does color, and she does color marvelously, whether she's taking celebrity photos of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, or whether she's taking royal portraits of the Queen, right? This is not that long ago, actually. This is an official royal photograph. Looks pretty paintingly to me, very portrait, but look where the Queen is. She's just a little bit off center, right? There's a balance in terms of the background, but those are dark clouds on the horizon, literally, right? Dark clouds on the horizon. The Queen's dressed in black. She looks very stoic, but your eye is drawn to her, and it almost looks as if she's in this ethereal kingdom. Now, Annie Leibovitz has also been hired by Disney to do lots of Disney types of portraits, but she made her name in doing iconic portraits for magazines like Vanity Fair, Vogue, other places. This is Meryl Streep, classic portrait of Meryl Streep, and I'll leave you with this one of The Sopranos. This was taken by Annie Leibovitz after the end of The Sopranos, and if you don't know what picture that's supposed to be, it's taken directly from Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, with Tony Soprano as Christ and all of the members of the Soprano clan all around the table. Very, very interesting. And Annie Leibovitz has done an incredible job through her career in using photography to blend a lot of the pictorial traditions from painting and so on. So I urge you to look up some of these and have a look at them. You can see the stories being told in these elaborate, sometimes quoted portraits, but they're all beautifully lit, wonderfully composed, and tell these interesting stories. Okay, let's shift gears. I'm going to shift gears, go into Photoshop now. Before I do, I'm going to show you just how bad the camera is on my Mac. This is a picture I clipped of myself before the meeting started. And, it's okay, for a Zoom picture. But look at the skin detail here. Now, this was not direct sun, right? This was just bright enough to overwhelm the software that drives the camera in my Mac. And in case you think this is just crappy Zoomness, it's not. It's actually the fact that the camera itself is bad. I checked in same FaceTime and all those other ones. The camera in your computer is okay, but as I said, generally crappy, right? There's a little bit of Rembrandt light from a window. I'm definitely relaxed there, and I have my COVID haircut in both sides, in both cases. This is pre-COVID clipping. This is after I actually I did my own haircut yesterday, which was kind of interesting. Thank God you can't see the back of my head. Anyway, I wanted to show you that as a limitation. And then I want to show you about some things in Photoshop, okay? Now, here's one of the things that a professional does that most people don't. You guys are sitting with a JPEG, I'm sure. I don't use JPEGs when I shoot professionally or even when I shoot for fun. My cell phone pictures are JPEGs, and I'm going to show you a couple cell phone pictures at the end to show you just what can happen with software. But let's start with Photoshop here, and Usually I would take pictures of you guys for this, but since I can't, I am taking pictures of myself. And I'm just going to zoom in here. I'm using a Canon 6D for this. That's this thing right here, just so you know. It's not the Mark II. I'm just using a 6D. This is a DSLR. It's an old school DSLR, right? Full frame, and a bunch of different, oh, that's the Mark II. I'm not using the Mark II. I'm using the Mark I, the older one. But it looks basically the same. It's a mirror, so it has a prism, and you look through the back, and it actually lets you look through the lens before you take the picture. Okay? So that's what I'm going to show you. It's a full frame camera. A lot of my professional photos have been done that way too. These are not professional though. These are just pictures of me. So without any further ado, let's get into Photoshop. Now Photoshop does remember a few things. It remembers a few pictures I took in the lab. These are pictures I took in the lab of students in previous 2200 classes. It's nice because then we can demonstrate lighting right on site. These were taken in the basement in the lab, and I might actually use a couple of these later, but let's just open up the pictures I took of me. And I'm going to take a sort of normal style picture of me, not too close up, not close up. We'll just take this one. Why not? Okay, now you notice this is a CR2 file. This is a raw file. Okay, so when I open it up, it's not going to open up like your JPEG. But I wanted to show you this because there's some things you can do with a raw file that you can't do with, yeah, thanks, go away. Get started, thank you. That you can't do with a regular JPEG. Okay, now, one of the things you can do is look at all these adjustments here. You see it? Right?
Yeah.
And what this lets me do first and foremost when I'm doing professional photography is I can fix the lighting color. Remember I was saying it's really hard to do color? And back in the day, if you had fluorescent light, you needed a different film than if you had light bulbs, and you needed a different film if you had the sun, and you needed different filters if you were shooting at sunset. Digital cameras let you change all that dynamically. So if this was fluorescent light, I could turn the color temperature down to here. If this was sunset, I can turn the color temperature up. I can do all of this without degrading any of the color. Right now I'm getting an average color. This is what my camera thinks the color of white is. But the cool thing is, with this kind of setup, I can actually pick the color of white right here with these little pickers. Can you see what I'm doing up here? Right? So color sampler, there's a white balance tool. All I need to do is click on something that I know is white, and the colors should basically snap into the right perspective. And that's what I did. It doesn't look like that we were very far off. It will change depending on how white or how neutral the thing I click on. See? Can you see that over Zoom? Gray is actually the best. That gives me the most neutral color. I got a white ceiling here too. That would work as well. Okay, everybody see that? Okay, now I can do other stuff as well. This is pretty well exposed, as you can see. So it's not too bad, right? I can zoom in and look at this, right? So I can see that it's, you know, it's actually reasonably in focus. Not bad for a tripod. But if this was badly exposed, I could change the exposure, right? A lot, not like a JPEG. You see, the raw data of a camera has a lot more data than a JPEG does. It's already cooked into the film. So with this, I can change the contrast, I can change the highlight detail, right? I can maintain it if I want. I think the whites, you can do a lot here that you simply can't do with a JPEG, right? I can show how make things black or not. I can open up the shadows. You see what I mean? There's a lot I can do here. And I haven't touched really the actual picture itself, okay? What I'm doing is I'm interpreting the picture, right? Dynamically. You can do a lot of this with a JPEG, but you can't do all of this with a JPEG, particularly that light color and tint, okay? So if I think this is a little too red, I can make it a little greener. If I think it's a little too green, I can make it a little redder. That's important, by the way, when you're like taking pictures in a forest or something where everything is green. You'd be surprised at how much gets picked up. Okay, any question about this, right? This is only for raw files.
Right,
but
this is what I was going to ask you. This is only for raw files.
It's only for raw files. Now, if you look through your app store, chances are you will find a app that says it will take raw files from your phone and do the same kinds of things, okay? As I'm doing here. Exactly the same kinds of things. Interesting, eh? When I open this up, we're into Photoshop. Now, it's important to understand I haven't changed any of the data, okay? I haven't changed any of this data at all, okay? So I could go back, and I could, if I wanted to, go back and do this all over again, okay? So I'm going to tell you 5 most important things in Photoshop that you need to know to use Photoshop. The first one is that it's not as hard as it looks. We're dealing with bitmaps here. They're a lot easier than vectors. But the very first thing you really need to understand is non-destructive image editing. Non-destructive editing. You notice when you go into your phone and you edit something, you change the color, you put a filter on, it's really hard to go back to the original, right? That's because when you destroy your original, you are destroying the picture elements, okay? Now, this is just a bitmap. Sorry, folks, you don't want to see my face up that close, but there it is, okay? This is just pixels, right? As we said before, just dots, okay? So if I change those dots, they will change for all time unless I do something non-destructive. Okay, now with a raw file, I can always go back to the raw file, so I don't have to worry about that. I can't save over the raw file. Photoshop will not save the raw file out. It will save some of the things I do, so I can go back to it if I want, but it won't save it out as a raw file. Does everybody understand?
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge professional advantage. I can have all of my files, I can archive them, and anytime I want to reinterpret them, I can do that. Okay. That's the first thing. But you can non-destructively do things in Photoshop, and that's with this layers palette, okay? Now, you're going to see layers in a lot of Adobe applications. It's in InDesign, it's in Illustrator, thank you. It's in XD, it's in all kinds, it's in Dreamweaver even. There's layers so that you can build up effects in the picture just like you are working on different levels, okay? So I want you to think in 3 dimensions here. You can add stuff on top of here so that you don't destroy what's in the background. The background is always your base picture, and to add a new layer, you can either go up and do it from layer, right, new, or you can work right in the layers palette. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and go to point number 2. Let's talk about the interface so you know what's going on, okay? Obviously, this is your picture, right? And you can drag this around. You can work on 2 monitors. When I'm doing professional work, I usually have this on one monitor and the controls on another monitor. But for now, we're just going to do this, okay? This is the tool set, okay? This is where all the tools are for everything in Photoshop, okay? Just like they were in Illustrator. They're on the left-hand side here. On the right-hand side, you have palettes and windows and information, okay? So right now, I've got my library and adjustments. These are automatic adjustments that you can make. if you want to. I'm going to not use those. I'm going to be a little more old school. These are new ways of doing things. So if you want to add a curve, you can do it just by dragging and dropping it. That's pretty cool. And that's okay. So but you notice it's add a layer, right? So that's good. So even if you don't know what a curve does, if you click this, it adds a layer on top of the background. Okay, and we can do some stuff here. So I'll come back to that. Okay, this is information. This shows you, for instance, the distribution between light parts at this end and dark parts of the picture. Okay, this shows you the color values for wherever you put your cursor. Okay, so you'll see if I use this eyedropper, and I want actually a 5x5 average. And if I go and drop it, you'll see these values change, right? So if I go to something that's almost black, you're going to see, look, the red, green, blue values of this are almost the same, which means they're gray, and they're almost zero, which is black. If we go to something really white, don't have too much really white in here, but you see they're almost, look, 254, 255, 255. That's almost a gray because it's very high, and it's almost no information. If they were 255, 255, 255, they'd be white. So I'm not expecting you to know that stuff, but Photoshop gives you a lot of information here and a lot of things to look at. Okay? So you can control things over here. You can pick tools on the left, and your image is in the middle. If you're on a Mac, you can use touch gestures to zoom in and out. Otherwise, there's this is the magnifier. Oh, look, they even show you what it all does now. This is the moving tool, so you can move stuff around. This is the selection tool. This is the pen tool to draw lines. This is the text tool, right? So if I wanted to put, 5 important things about Photoshop, is it white or is it black? 5 important, it's black. It is there. You can't see it because it's black. I'm going to make it white just by clicking this little thing here. Or I could have done it up here, right? It's let's change the typeface. It's a terrible typeface. I'll just stick with Arial for now. That's kind of boring, but there you go. And we can go like that. Oh, I got blue somehow. Somehow I clicked blue down here. I don't know how. Anyway, it's important to know that I just added a text layer. Okay, a couple of them actually. So let's get rid of that one. And look, do you see what I'm doing in layers over here? Layers are independent of the background, which is cool. I can now turn that on and off, and I can move it around. I can put it wherever I like. Okay, so you can do that. And if I want to see it, it's there. If I don't want to see it, I can just click that eye, but it's still there. Okay, so does everybody understand how that works with layers? Something else cool about layers is you can affect every layer differently. So if I want this to be translucent, if I want to change the transparency of this, I can change the opacity of it from 100% to 69%. And you see how now you can see things behind it. You can actually see through the lettering, right? Doesn't make it easy to read, but you can see where that might be useful. You can also have layer effects so that you can do things to this layer to make it a little bit different, depending on what the screen is below. And it shows you what it looks like if you apply these effects. So if you multiply it, it actually darkens it where my shirt is. If you lighten it, it'll do it if it's lighter. If you do a color dodge, it will dodge different colors. There's all kinds of different effects on layers, and you can do this with anything you like, right? So I can change the saturation, I can change the hue, or the color or the luminosity, right? I can just use the luminosity from that, okay? Now, I know you're going, Jamie, this is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. It is. But what if I wanted to change something in the background? Like what if I wanted to, oh, I don't know, make it look like I got more sleep than I did last night. And I'm going to get rid of some of these bags. So if I do this on the background of my JPEG, right? And we're back to non-destructive imaging still. I will change the background. I don't want to do that. I always want to be able to go back. So first thing I do is I right-click and make a duplicate layer, okay? And now I have a layer that is not the background, okay? And again, I can turn off all this other stuff, and I have a background copy. If I turn off the background, you can't tell any difference because I haven't done anything to this, okay? Everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. If I change the order of these layers, it will change how you see things. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the curves layer for a second. Just with this little, oh, I don't want to get rid of the mask. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to drag it to the trash can down there. Okay, now I just have these 3 layers. There's my text, right? If I turn it off. Okay, so if I put this behind the background, you won't see it anymore. Does everybody understand what I did? I put the background layer on top of the text layer so you can't see it. If I turn this off, you'll see it. If I make this opaque, you will see the letters starting to come through. You see? So the relationship between layers is really important. If I want an instant, anyway, the relationship between layers is very important. I can do all kinds of things with the layers. We're not going to get into channels too much, although they're a good way of making a quick black and white. And I can draw paths to select things and those kinds of things. But the main thing is the layers let me work non-destructively with JPEGs, okay? If I do something to screw this up, I can always go back to the background. So never work on your background layer. Now we're going to make me look like I've had sleep. And here's how we do it. I could do all kinds of things. There's a healing brush it's like a spot healing brush in Photoshop. I selected it, and you see that little round thing? Can you see the round thing there? If I right-click it, I can actually change its size. I can make it softer or harder. I can make it big or small. If I don't like the fact that book has got a dot on it, I could get rid of that. But right now, I'm just going to get rid of some of the spots on my face because clearly the lighting wasn't quite as good as I thought it was. And this lens is very sharp, and it's not all that flattering. So let's get rid of some of this. Photoshop lets you do this kind of instantly, right? And non-destructively, right? I'm not really changing the way I look. I'm just basically giving myself some makeup, right?
Looking more useful.
A little bit. Looking like I slept, like I said. Now you can go overboard on this and make it look ridiculous, as you can see. Okay?
Is this for magazines?
What's that?
Is this how they like clear up faces for like magazines?
Oh, absolutely. I can take years off me if I really want to. In fact, I could go in and clone this now on a different layer and really, really make it better. But yes, all magazines are touched up like this. All professional portraits are touched up like this. I want you to think I'm a good photographer. And you might think, well, wow, this has really changed a lot. And it has. It's very easy to do. As you can see, I'm not really, oops, that was a mistake. Control Z on that one. You know, it's pretty easy to do. It truly is. And you can see I need a shave today. It's been a kind of COVID day. Right? That's a lot of difference. And if you want to see how much different that is, here's the difference. What do you think?
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's a little too convincing, though. So now I can change the opacity of that layer, and I can just dial it back a little bit and bring back in some of those spots. And now it looks more like me and my age, and you can still see the wrinkles, but not as much. Difference, subtle, but dramatic. Right? So it's me, but it's not me. Something that you might do for women is you might make their eyes larger, their ears smaller. You might, do all kinds of things that we want. If I want to bring attention to well, actually, there's a lot of things I could do with this picture to make it better, right? It's kind of really terrible in terms of composition because I was doing this on a tripod and with no one to help me. So let's talk about composition now that we've talked about non-destructive editing. How do you fix composition in Photoshop? Okay, I'm going to get rid of that text. First of all, the horizon's really bad on this. It looks like those bookshelves are sort of slanted, right? So again, I'm going to take a background copy, but now this one is only 34% in terms of how good it is. So if I like this and I want to make this my background, I could flatten this down to be the background, okay? But then I have destroyed the background. Got it? I mean, if I'm happy with it, that would be one thing. But you can also create a new layer that incorporates everything below it. And it used to be this one, which is merge visible with, on a Mac, Control. Might even be Control Shift. Nope, I gotta undo that.
I will merge all the layers. I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So basically, when we save the file on this, this is not Lightroom, this is Camera Raw. We are really saving all the sort of like the steps that we have taken to make the changes, but we're not affecting the raw file.
If you're using the raw file, then the raw file exists, and this is not the raw file.
What are you working on there?
I'm working on an in-memory bitmap.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right, so when I save it, it'll be a bitmap.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be a raw file. I don't believe it'll save the raw file.
Correct.
Never used to, right?
No, you're correct.
Yeah, I hope so.
Question.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to do it with this picture on my laptop, and because the picture is just a JPEG and the resolution is not very good, when I zoom in, it pixelates. That's the same when I add text to it, that pixelates too.
Really? It's interesting. It shouldn't pixelate until you save it out. Now, it could be that the resolution of your file is not that good. And it might just be matching the resolution. That's all I can think of. Right? The text shouldn't pixelate. It's actually vector text until it's saved.
No,
can you go up and check?
Matching the resolution of the picture, I guess.
Interesting. Go up and look at your image size and see what the actual resolution is. All right, you can see this is 300 pixels per inch at, right, it's a huge picture. It's 57 megabytes in memory. Yeah, it's a 20 megapixel image, right?
Sorry, how did you check that?
You go up into image. This is where all your information is, so image size.
Mm-hmm.
That will tell you how big it is. Again, depending on resolution. So if it's for screen, and this is a lot of resolution.
Yeah.
Right? So you can go up and play with those. If you resample it, it will change the size for you. So if you want to make more pixels than are there, you can do it, but you can't really make more pixels than are there.
So why is that option there then?
Because if you need it to print, it's often better to match the resolution to the output device than it is to let the output device do it for you.
But it's already there. Wasn't there already 300?
There is for me, yeah, for this picture.
Right. So it's already 300. So it's ready to go.
It's ready to go at that size. You're right. For print.
For print. That's right.
For print. That's right. Yeah, 300 ppi.
Mm-hmm.
And how big is this in inches? I don't even know. Dang it.
But you change it on the side right there.
There we go. 18 by 12. at 300 pixels per inch. Now, I could get a good print out of this, out of a professional printer, at about 230.
Oh, is that right?
Yep, no problem. Without resampling, it would be bigger, right? It'd be a bigger image. Yep. So see, now it's 24 by, it's a 16 by 20 almost. I get a 16 by 20 crop. Okay, and if this is baffling you guys, don't worry about it. Okay.
And at this point in time, you haven't lost anything, no data.
Nothing. I've lost no data, and I'm trying desperately to find the magic incantation here to get this to, is it Control Shift Click? It's really bothering me on my on my Windows. It's just Control Shift. Nope. See, it keeps flattening to one. That's what merge visible does, and merge down, guys. If you merge down or flatten image will actually flatten the two layers into one. But if you, okay, what is that? Is that up arrow?
Yeah, Shift.
Command E?
Yeah.
No, that's it did that, but that's not what I want.
What do you want to do?
I wanted to automatically create a new layer when I hit merge visible. Dang it.
Oh, I see.
Right?
You just drag the layer onto the plus to create a new layer.
No, I wanted to create a new layer combined of the old layers.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that one.
Hang on, I'll get it. There it is. Option Shift Merge Visible. Okay. So now I have a new layer that is the combination of these two layers. Okay. Does everybody get that? Option Shift, and see, I've got all my touch-up work here in a new layer. See? If I turn that off, that's the layer with all the touch-up work. That's the background layer. You put those two together, and you get this layer. And it does it for me automatically. And the reason I do that is so now I can change this layer without changing anything underneath. So now I'm going to do some things here. I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, and we're going to call this one rotate. And I'm going to rotate this layer because it's way off kilter. See if you guys can do this. If you go to the selection tool and we go show transform controls, all of a sudden this thing can be manipulated. Okay, so I can actually make it smaller or bigger, and I can actually rotate it as well, right? I should be able to auto select layer, show transform controls. I don't see the rotate. Why can't I rotate here, guys? You've changed this on me.
You have to go to the corner outside the.
That's where I was, though.
Can you minimize it a little bit and make it a little bit smaller, and then go to the edge?
Oh, there you go. Okay, this is a little bit. Yeah, good move. Now, see, I got to pick my poison here, guys. Do I want the books to be level or my eyes?
Interesting.
Or the lamp, right? So we got a perspective problem here, and that perspective problem is because of the lens, right? The lamp is actually going to look weird if it's not straight, but I can straighten it a little bit. And to cover up and to make a better composition, I'm going to crop this in a different way than normal. Whoops! Come on. Why did it do that? I've got Shift. Is it Control?
No, don't touch anything. Just drag it.
Oh, and it'll maintain. Okay. Thank you.
You know, I was thinking maybe what if you use the vertical line associated to the corner of your walls?
That's not bad, and it's not far off. Like that would be at about there, right?
Yeah. You know what I use sometimes? I create a guideline. I put a guideline because it gives me that straight line.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could put a ruler in here and a guide. You're absolutely right. But what I'm trying to show you here is how much you can do, right? Like I can get rid of a lot of this ambiguity by making a better composition. So I'm going to do a rule of thirds here. There we go. Now you see, I've cropped into this. That's I think a better picture. It's more interesting, right? Yeah, it's more interesting. And all I do is click check mark here, and now I have this picture.
Is there a way to increase the area visible even though you rotate an image? Or would that mess up the pixels?
I'm not sure what you mean.
As in, you know, as you were rotating the picture, it kind of cropped the image as well. Is there a way to still maintain that, like the whole file size?
You mean the whole view?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. It's very tricky. What you would have to do is actually you'd have to paint in the missing pieces.
Okay.
So you want to try that? There's all kinds of amazing content-aware fill tools in here now that are ridiculous, right? Where's content-aware fill? It's here somewhere. It's insanely good. It's probably under brush tool here somewhere. See, there's all kinds of other tools underneath, and they keep changing them. Yeah. Yeah, not sure where that is. I'll show you in a minute. But you see how much better a picture that is? Right? Doesn't everything look a little bit better than that? Right?
Really good.
Yeah. It goes from snapshot to something that sort of follows the rules. You notice even the bookshelf doesn't look wonky anymore. And I haven't really pulled out any of the big guns, like Liquify. So let me show you what else they do in the magazines. If I wanted to, say, make my cheeks look thinner because this lens isn't exactly a perfect portrait lens, it's not bad. Let's say I wanted to just make my cheeks look a little thinner. Again, I can take a copy of this, so I am not doing anything. I can always go back to everything underneath here, and we can use some of these filters, right? Now there's all kinds of things. There's lens corrections, so I can actually change the way this looks based on the lens that I used, right? Remember I was saying certain lenses have more distortion than others, right? So look, it even says, look, it's a Canon, and it knows it's a 6D, and wow, that is the right lens too, right?
What is this doing exactly? Where you just this particular function?
It's using software to correct flaws in the lens, optical flaws.
Oh my God, that's awesome!
Yeah, it can correct the vignette, so it's darkened on the side. So that's what it's doing. If I click OK, let me see if I can get a preview here. Am I getting preview? What's it look like without it? Yeah, see, so it's actually done a lot of correction for me here, but it's also screwed some things up because I've cropped it. So we're going to take this one away. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use the Liquify instead, because the kinds of things you can do with this are astonishing. So, okay, I just did Liquify. Okay, so like I say, I want to fix my face a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in here. And I just want to make my cheeks a little less chubby. But I don't want anything else to go awry here, right? So I'm going to use the freeze tool, the freeze mask, and I'm going to freeze the stuff I don't want to move. I don't want that to move. Magazines have been doing this for a long time. And I don't really want the other side of my face to move either, although I look okay there. Okay, now this is micro targeting stuff. And now I'm going to liquify by pushing the pixels around with this big brush. Okay, now watch. See what's happening here? I can basically get rid of anything I want.
What do they call this? A serious case of body dysmorphia.
Exactly right, man. As used by every editor in every picture place ever. Okay, now again, subtle, but dramatic.
Can we do it like in the middle of the picture as well, or
Oh
just?
God, yeah. If I want to screw up my face, yeah. What do you want me to do? Lift my nose? There you go. I'm 10 years younger.
Nose job there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nose job. I could make my eyes bigger. Right, watch this. So far, so good. I need this to be... Oh, look at this. Oh, I forgot. They got face-aware Liquify now. Did you see this? This is brand new. This is so much... Look, I can fix my eyes. I can make the eyes bigger. Right? Are you seeing that?
Oh my God.
Right?
I've been working with Photoshop for a while. This is the first time I see this part.
This is brand new. This is brand new. This is just in the most recent one. I got to get rid of the freeze mask here so we can really see that AI stuff at work. That's what this is, right? Freeze mask, where's the thaw mask? Yeah, thaw mask, good. So let's take this off my eyes.
So at this point in time, you're only deleting these marks that you created, correct?
I'm not deleting anything but the thing that prevents my face from moving. That's just a mask, right? So if I put that on it, yeah, I'm not deleting anything.
Yeah, when you actually erase, are you erasing the mask right now?
Yeah, I'm erasing the mask so I can use these tools. So let's change my eye size. I want my eyes to be, oh, I don't know, that much bigger. Eye height, holy crap. Is it right and left? It is, it's right and left. So I can actually make my eyes look the same size. And I can heighten this one a little bit because it's looking a little droopy, thank you. I can make this one a little wider. Look at that, man. Tilt, I can change the tilt.
Is this going to be a part of our...
Look. Holy Christmas, guys. Is that going to be part of your what?
Of our midterm?
How scary is Liquify? Yes. Eye distance here now. There. Better than that? Beady eyes, better eyes. I don't know. That's scary, man. And then look, smile. Do we want to have more of a smile? Wow.
Crazy.
Upper lip. Look.
What if you want to be sad? Oh.
Good enough? Wait, there's the nose. What can I do? I can move my whole nose up. Holy crap.
Oh, you can also
make my nose narrower.
Is this kind of how they do CGI as well?
This is getting into how they do CGI, but this is definitely what they do with actors. There you go. Still me, but not me.
Wow.
And how long? I mean, I didn't even have to use my mad skills to do that. That's really, really creepy. Anyway, now where's the forehead one that makes my forehead look better? You know what I mean? Like this way lies madness.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm so glad this is recorded. I can see it again.
Yep, you can see it again. Now there's other things that we do here, you know, in Photoshop. So we've done non-destructive editing. That's the big one. We've done text. We've done image manipulation and composition, right? You can still do lighting and color effects, okay? And that's where these kinds of things come in. There's like 10 ways to get to these effects. These adjustments here are kind of interesting, right? But you can also just add them from down here. You see that little adjustment? See, all of these are different layers. They're the same thing. They're exactly the same thing as they are up here. Okay, but let's try using a levels correction. Okay, here's brightness and contrast. You know what brightness and contrast does. That's what your phone does. Levels lets you change around the gray values of a picture. So if I want to sort of brighten the whole thing without changing the white or black point, or darken the whole thing without changing the white or black point. Okay, do you see? Or change the contrast by increasing the black. Whoops, sorry. Change the contrast by increasing the black, right? Or,
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. How come the color on your face is not changing as much?
Well, it will. See, look, it's changing now, right?
Wow.
It changes quite a bit depending on how you change the saturation.
And what is your opinion on the auto option that they have there?
My personal opinion is no, but it's pretty good for, for snapshots. Auto's usually kind of okay. I don't do it. I never use auto, so I don't even know where to find it here.
It's right there, right beside RGB.
That's the RGB.
RGB. Oh, auto. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, it did something. I don't know what. Did it do anything?
Yeah, it makes it look more brighter, but sharp.
It was brighter. I don't know. I don't like it. I think the density's off, personally. Right? I think it's washed out now. Of course, we can just keep it on auto and then go like this. Right? And split the difference. So now it's not quite auto. I still think my skin tones are too light. If I started to measure them, they'd be too light for me, I think. Not quite that much of a vampire. But close. Okay, so that's levels, and that's pretty interesting. You can also change the gray point. So remember I used white balance to get better color? You can do that here by clicking on something gray, okay? And this will change the color. So if I click on here, it should probably warm it up a little bit. Not bad. You see how it's changing the color? Depending on what it thinks is gray. It's not as powerful as white balance, but it's pretty darn good for a JPEG. You can do this with JPEGs. So I don't know which is more neutral. I like warm portraits, so I'm going to stick with that. But that's a little bit different. You see? That's too warm, probably. So I'm going to get rid of that layer. I'm going to show you how I do this. I don't use levels. I use curves. Okay, now there's a reason I use curves. So to make your adjustments, you can also use exposure, by the way, but curves, and that was also clicking on this. Curves lets you actually, these are the shadows. You see how there's a little vector here, or a little graph. The shadows are down here, and the whites are over here. You can do the same things as you can with levels. I can bring the blacks in, right? I can bring the whites in, right? But I can go anywhere in between. So if I want to increase the contrast, I can nudge the black level down a little bit, and I can nudge the white level up a little bit. Now that is a typical film curve for contrast, right? An S curve. And you see the difference, right? It's a lot more dramatic, right? Without really changing the look of my face too much.
Will the auto here too do the same job?
Would the auto do the same job? No, I don't think it would. I think the custom preset would probably be better. See how it says color negative? Right? Or cross process or increase contrast. I wonder if I increase contrast, we'll get the same curve. Let's see. Yeah, it's basically the same curve, only more.
Looking more.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, right? I'm going to undo that because it's too much for this picture. That's why I don't use auto, though. We could try auto. What will it do? Auto. Yeah, you know what? It increased the middle tones again. Very much the same as the auto levels.
Right.
Okay. Now, the cool thing about curves, as opposed to levels, in case you're wondering, is sometimes you take a picture, and I'm sure you guys have done this. By the way, you can always get back to normal just by taking these off, right? You can also increase the shadows, decrease things. You can do all kinds of stuff with curves. But if you're doing it in RGB, you're affecting all colors at once, okay? So let me lighten this up a little bit. Let's say I want to make this look like it's nighttime, okay? And I want to make sure that it looks more blue than anything else. Well, I can affect the amount of blue in this, right? I can actually, make it creepy blue if I want, right? I can take away all the other colors. I can create a blue filter simply by manipulating these curves, right? So there's nothing but blue. I can make it look, you know, customized, right? You see what I've done there? That's very, very cyan, right? The background looks completely blue and there's something. So now you know how all your Instagram filters work. This is what they're doing in the background to make it look like a Polaroid or cool. You know, this will say cool. That means it's got cyan shadows. And you do that by manipulating the color channels in the picture. Now, the interesting thing to me is all of this can be manipulated in any way you like. So I can make it look any way I like, okay? Now, these are extreme examples, but I'm sure you guys have taken a picture where the color's wrong, like there's a blue cast or a yellow cast, right? You can get rid of that in Photoshop, which is very cool. So if I think this is just a little too red, or actually, and you got to know how the color wheel works here, you know, but if I think this is too yellow, blue is the opposite of yellow. So if I want to cool this portrait, all I have to do is nudge blue up a little bit. Not so much that it looks blue, okay? So do you see how much cooler that is, right? You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Your eye does a lot of adjustment. And if I really wanted to make this look even cooler, I could change the saturation level, which means how vibrant the colors are. And I could just take out the saturation, right? And there's a cooler portrait of me that shifts towards the blue side of the spectrum. I still think the saturation, I can make it lighter or darker. I can fade it out, right? You can do all those kinds of things. Okay, those are image adjustments, exposure, non-destructive editing, and I can always go back to my original picture. Okay? Just by turning all that stuff off except the background, right? Isn't that cool? But we can go back and change it back to where we were. Any questions about that? I'm going to do one more magic trick here. Okay, and then we'll do some questions.
All right, just a quick question. So you notice on your hairline,
Yep.
it became extremely blurry now. Do you notice?
It's not blurry, it's saturated, right? So look, actually my thinning hair is perfectly crisp. Unfortunately, right? You can see that I need a haircut and that I need one badly. But what's happening with the color manipulations is the gradient between my forehead and the shadow here is becoming too saturated.
So do you think that this sort of samples fixes that or not really?
I can fix it. I can fix it easily. All I have to do is change the saturation of this area, right? So
okay.
Yeah, so here's how I'll do it, okay? Yeah, if we think this is a little too dark, I could take out the spots. I could do all kinds of things, but if I just want to lighten it up, this is what I was going to do anyway. I can make a selection, right? And there's selection tools in Photoshop, probably right here. I'm going to use the Lasso Tool, okay? And I'm going to feather it, which means it's not going to be completely crisp. I want a not crisp selection here, and I'm going to feather it by maybe 50 pixels, okay? And then I'm going to draw just an area around there. It looks a little bit too dark or something. I don't know, right? Doesn't have to be accurate because that's what I selected, okay? Now I maybe don't want to select this one little spot. So I'm going to use Option, and I'm just going to take out that one little bit to make it smoother. Okay, so that's what I've selected. Now, when I add a curves layer to this, it's actually going to only do the selection. So now if I lighten this, It'll get lighter
Oh, shit.
or dark.
Wow.
Do whatever I want just on that one little spot. And again, subtlety is what we're after here.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks better. That looks better than this.
So at this point in time, what do you do? Once you do this, you merge it with below?
Yeah, I can merge it, or I can create another layer the way I did before, right?
Oh,
This merge layer. Or if I want to, if I will always want that to be there, I can just go merge down. Merge down. It'll take the layer I'm on and merge it one down. And now that's part of that layer.
Yeah, that's a very good solution.
Yeah. I can make my eyes blue. I can make them brown. I can give myself a mustache. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can make myself look younger. We can do all kinds of stuff here. That's actually how I look, though. Right?
Yeah.
Subtle but dramatic. So let's get rid of that. I know I want to be me for the next one. So this is me. That's within the realm of okayness. I'm not sure which lens I used to take this picture. I think it's the 85 millimeter. We can find out by looking at the metadata for this. Okay, now remember I said this is just dots, but look at, this is the actual, remember I said JPEGs and pictures actually have text in them? Well, here it is, okay? And you can see that this was actually taken with a super cheap 50 millimeter 1.8 lens. That's amazing. This is the Plastic Fantastic $90 Canon lens. Goes to show you.
This one basically does a very nice close-up of your portrait, but makes everything behind you blurry.
Well, that's actually desirable.
Yeah, nice. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the ability to do that. Yeah, and it's cheap. It's super cheap. It's at f2. I have a better picture, but look at what's here, right? So the camera's information, their serial number, the image size, how many pixels per inch, and I didn't use a flash. Isn't that cool?
Awesome.
Now a lot of this other, like if I had GPS information turned on, it would tell me exactly where the picture was taken. I could have audio data, video data, Photoshop data, and here's the raw data that the camera recorded. Cool, eh?
Cool. Yeah, very cool.
So you can search all that stuff, of course, and you can classify all that stuff, of course. Okay, now before we go, I'm going to show you one more picture. I'm going to keep this one because I want to do one more thing, but I want to show you a difference in lens. So this one I think is a 135 millimeter lens. It's about 10 times the price. Nope, this is the cheap. That's a wide angle lens. You can see how messy this is, right? So there's a 24 millimeter lens, right? You see how much more information there is there? And again, you start to see the distortion, although that's a much better lens than the one that I did my picture with. The distortion on this one is actually in the on the edges. You can see how the perspective is very zoomy. And remember I said there's a lot of difference between the foreground and the background there? Okay, let's close that one. I want to get rid of this. Save image, open image, cancel. Let me open a different one. Now that I know these ones, this must be the 135 millimeter one. What the heck? Let's try that again. Open. Oh, okay. This must be the 135 millimeter one. 517. Okay. Yeah, there we go. See, now I look automatically better there, right? In terms of my face. And that's because it's more accurate with less distortion. You notice the background looks like it's right next to me. Does everybody see that? Right? That's because it's a 135 millimeter lens, right? It's much more flattering for a portrait. It's just as sharp, but the background's much more blurry. And I can still, do all the things I did before with white balance and color and exposure, right? I can get the exposure just right. We can change the contrast a little bit here. I can get a better white balance. I like to think this is closer to how I look. Right? And there it is. And then I can do all that same stuff I did before, right? But you see the difference between those two? Like, it's huge in terms of just the shape of my face. But for 89 bucks, that's pretty good. This one is not $89.
So the size of this image is much larger?
No, the size is the same. It's just we've cropped the one, right? Remember? It's not the size of the image. The images are the exact same size from the same camera. It's just this is a 135 millimeter lens taken from exactly the same position as that other one.
I see.
Right? So the difference is actually this. Right? That's 50 millimeters, same position, 135 millimeters. Big difference. And you can see the difference in the background too. Like, it's right there. It's like it's compressed. So I don't know whether you've noticed, but if you ever watch an action movie where somebody's being chased by a big truck, like in Terminator or something, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's driving a motorcycle and it looks like the truck is right on top of him. It's because they're using a really long telephoto lens and it compresses the background distance. Right? Okay. For my last trick here, let's do this. Oh, I can, well, actually, let me show you an intermediate file as well. Here's a really nice portrait lens. This is a portrait length that a lot of photographers use. It's 85 millimeters on a 35 millimeter camera, right? See, isn't that nice? That's a mix of those two. Now, my smile is terrible, and we all know how I could fix that. But as far as the actual picture goes, it's a nice picture. It has a good balance between those two, right? This is the sharpest of the three lenses and the most expensive of the three, right? But these are the kinds of things that you can't really do with a cell phone, right? You can see how brutally sharp this is, you know, and it's quite nice. Okay. In between this one, right, it's a little bit smaller, and this one. But they're all the same distance, like I say. Okay, last trick. And then I'm going to show you something. So you all see how the difference blurs too, right? With the background, right? You see how different that is? What if I only had this, but I wanted to make a blurrier background? What could I do? Well, to make this look like it's a better lens. In the latest versions of Photoshop, there's a selector tool called the magnetic lasso, right? Or magic lasso or magnetic. Isn't, I thought it used to be magic. It's magnetic now, okay? What you can do with this is really, really complex selections, again, based on artificial intelligence. So I can just start to drag and select me. And let's see if I can do this with my stupid trackpad. I'm doing such a bad job.
It does that to me too, even with my pen. It still does that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, my tablet's a lot better.
There's the magic wand tool. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the magic wand tool might be better. Where's the magic wand tool?
It's right under the lasso one.
Okay, let me try that one. Because there's one that really is magic. Oh, come on, Photoshop. Don't do this. Oh, it's the beach ball of death, guys. I have too many big pictures open for my poor Mac. Come on, stop. Oh, nuts. Nuts, nuts, nuts. I didn't even save it. I wonder if it's saving to the cloud right now or something.
Maybe.
Okay, let's give Photoshop a little break, and I'm going to show you something else. You saw the blur in that nice blur in the background. I was going to show you how to do that to make it look like the cheap lens looks like the good lens. But actually, this is happening anyway. Let me just, I'm going to just send a file here that I took earlier today from my phone, because the latest phones also have this technology built into them, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Yeah, this is, this is exactly what I want to show you. 2015 MacBook Pro, yes, go. Did it stop? Are we good? We are not good. I am like, is Photoshop really hung up? Let's see if I can open this picture up. That's what I want to do. I think I might have to force quit Photoshop. Oh, there we go. Open. Thank you. This will open in preview, so it'll be okay. This is a picture I took with my cell phone, my Apple cell phone, okay? And you can see it has an even cheaper lens, but do you see the blur? You see the background blur? It's only my face that's in focus, right? And I shot this into the light because I wanted to see what it would do. But do you see what it's doing here in software? It's actually mimicking the effect from that 135 millimeter lens on the 2 millimeter lens inside the cell phone. The iPhone 10 and XS has this, and all the newer ones have this. Multiple cameras where they can actually do these blur effects in software. It doesn't look quite the same as the lenses, but it's darn close, right? It's darn close. That's not the way a cell phone picture normally looks.
Do you take the picture facing forward or facing with the big lenses on the back?
That is with the good lens at the back. This is with the selfie cam.
Okay.
And the sun in the background. So I could see what I was doing, sort of. Now, what would really be interesting is to take this and put it in Photoshop. I don't know if Photoshop is ready for that yet, or if Photoshop will ever be ready. This is driving me nuts. Okay, so let's stop this, because I think it's not going to work. Not responding. Force quit. Oh, that didn't take very long. Okay, cool. So let's start up Photoshop again. I have no idea why that stopped like that. I was probably just picking the memory of it too much. I just want to show you one more thing here. And then I will let you go. Any questions while we're waiting? Is there anything you want to see or know?
This is what is used for graphic designers, right?
It is. Oh, look at this. It recovered. Oh, isn't that nice? Photoshop.
Yeah.
It recovered. It recovered my work. Photoshop has never done that before.
What about the layers?
They're all there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, wow.
That is amazing. I have to say, I'm very happy with this. It ate my other two pictures, which was too bad, but non-destructive editing, guys. Now, before I go any further, let's not be stupid. I could save it to the cloud, but let's save it on the computer. And I'm going to save it as a PSD. And we'll just save it as, I don't know, Jamie. By the way, you don't usually want to use Adobe RGB as a color profile. It's probably better to use sRGB for movies and stuff, but I can talk about that later. I don't want to save it to the cloud. Didn't I just say save it to my computer? Boy, oh boy. Let's save it there. Okay. Okay, now it's saved. Good. Okay, so for my final trick here, I want to put myself somewhere else. So let's do that selection again, and the magic wand tool is right there. I think it's better, personally. No, it's doing a selection. So it was magnetic lasso. It's not doing the magic thing. See, there's the selection, but this is being based on color. It's not so good. Let's do an 11 by 11 average, since I'm mostly in black. Nope, no good. Okay. Let us go back to magnetic lasso. Yep. I thought there was a magic. There needs to be a magic selection tool in one of these things. Okay, so we're going to not use that selection, right? We're going to get rid of it. And we're going to do this. I will fix it later. And you say, Harry, you said this does even with your tablet? Because I have problems with the tablet too. But this is pretty good, given that I'm sort of whipping through this. And I'm using the stupid pad mouse. Okay. Ah! One more time. Terrible hair selection. Are you guys seeing this? I'm just dragging it, right? You don't have to like click, right? Now, I thought it was double click, but I guess it's just click. There we go. And you can go in and you can save, you can fix some of your selections. By the way, there's no feather on that selection. That was really stupid. It needs to be at least a 50 pixel feather, I would say. Maybe a little bit less than that. So let's do that one more time. Invalid number. Okay, maybe 30 pixels. What the heck? One more time. Now, I've been spending a lot of time at home. I am going to put myself somewhere else, and I think maybe a beach is a good idea.
Professor, I was actually seeing something. If you want, I can send it to you about like how people use technology to create their own vacations, like, you know, pictures and all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, like.
Yeah, send it to me for sure.
Push your computer.
So FOMO is that bad that people want to fake their vacation? It's pretty bad.
A lot of social media influencers are doing that nowadays.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so we can go in and we can use the regular lasso tool, feather that, and we can fix the selection here a little bit because it's pretty crappy, right? Just with the shift key and the option key, right? I can make this a little better. And this is where, you know, people still have to take time to do a good job. I am not taking the time to do a good job. I'm doing a serviceable job. But you can see, you guys get it, right? You know, you make this better, it's going to look better. Whoops. I have been the guy that takes a long time to do this. I do think the content-aware tools they have are stupidly, ridiculously good these days. Okay, so I can do a bunch of things with this. I can now, watch this. Okay, let's do a couple things. And then I'll let you go. So let's make it look like I got a better lens. I can select the inverse of what I just selected. I selected me, so I'm going to select the inverse. And now I can go up to a filter and I can go to, I don't know, blur and lens blur. And I can make this as blurry as I like, honestly. So how blurry do we want it? It's only going to blur. Oh, wow. It's only going to blur the stuff that I want it to blur because I've selected it. So I can just blur whatever I want here, and it will start to blur out the background. Blade curvature. No, interesting. You have to tell it the mask, I guess. Isn't that interesting? And it will take a while, but it will actually blur. You see it's going blurrier? It's interesting, though. It looks like I've got... That's really interesting. They've changed this as well. Oh, that's the focal point. Now everything is being blurry. It should only be working on the layer mask. Let me try a different blur. That's really interesting. They're making this too smart for me. There we go, that's better. Now I can see how much blur I've got. Oh, that's too much. So that's basically what the iPhone is doing, right? It's basically, do you see the difference there, guys? In how blurry that background is now compared to how sharp I am?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can also darken this, right? If I wanted to make it a little darker, easily enough. Because I will stand out if the background is darker. You see that? So now I've made myself the point of interest. And again, it doesn't look unrealistic. It just looks like the light is different in the background than it is in the foreground. But it isn't, right? These are things I've done with tricks. Okay. So we went from this to this with not very much work. The other thing I could do, and this is the last thing I'll do, is like I say, I can reselect. I'm going to reselect the inverse. I'm going to copy me. And I am going to, what? Let's open a picture of a beach. I want a nice beach. Where are we going to put me? Oh, that looks really nice. I am not dressed for this beach, but it will do. I'm going to go, I used to be able to go new from copy. There we go. There's the beach. Here's me. Did I copy this? No. I'm going to copy merged. I'm going to drag it to, whoops. I don't even have to do that. I can just go in here and paste it, I think. Oh, wrong. Yeah, sure. I don't care. It's going to look weird. And I'm way too big. Isn't that great? Way too big. But look, I'm on a layer, and it's a transparent layer, and that's how this works. It even did the feather with a shadow. So what I need to do is I need to make it smaller. What's that? What is that? What is this thing? Why can't I? Show transform tools. Why can't I change the layer, guys? That's really weird. I should be able to select this whole layer and make it smaller. In the meantime, I've got something really odd here.
With the selection tool?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I should be able to show transform tools on this layer. Oh, I know. Duh. Let's try that. Nope, it's not doing it. Layer. Let's see if I can. Can I resize it? Wow. Okay. That's really, really weird. I've never had this happen. I should be able to resize this, no problem. And it's just not working. I have done, oh, auto select layer. Yeah. Yeah. But that's not the layer. Let's try this one more time. I'm going to do this one more time. Let's go back here. I'm going to, yeah, let's copy this. Copy merged. Yeah, it has to be merged. And then we're going to paste into new again. Clipboard, yep. Oh, what did I hit the wrong button. Create. Paste. Okay, now I've got just this. Okay, everybody see that in a layer? And I'm going to get, we saved this, right? So we can get rid of that by Jamie PSD. And we've got the beach, right? And all I have to do is really drag this layer to the other picture, like that. Didn't work. Okay, let's try this. Come on, you. Come on, Photoshop. Yes, it's okay. I don't care. Okay. It's still way too big. But at least it looks like I'm almost on the beach. Let me see if I can get the transform tool. I wonder if it's because it's so big.
If you manually adjust the length and width of the picture.
Yeah, I could do that. Yep. That's the other thing I could do. So let's just try that as the last resort here, 5 minutes before the class ends. I wanted to show you one more thing too. Okay, let's get rid of this. I don't know what that is. That's really weird. Okay, it's there. What is that? What is that selection? Does anybody know? That's very bizarre. I can't delete it either. Okay, so let's try this. So what is the image size here? Oh, something's really messed up here.
Like the
1 second. Discard hidden layers. Yes, please. I think we got a bug here, guys. Anyway, yeah, because I don't know what this thing is. Are those the transform? Oh, are they these? Yeah, they are. The transform controls are supposed to be the size of the image. That's really weird. Okay, so let's not show the transform controls. Okay, there's the picture. How big is the picture? Picture is 1600 by 900 by 72, right? So let's go back over to the other picture. Did I get rid of it? I don't see it anywhere. No, it's over there. Hang on. And let's change the size of this. Was it 1600 pixels? Actually, I don't want to be that big. Let's make it 1100. Good. Good. That should be a lot easier for Photoshop to deal with. And I will go like this. Yeah, that's okay. That's starting to look a little better, right? Now I'm on a beach. And we could fix this up so it doesn't look quite so bad. That's just the feathering, right? But because this is on a layer, I can do whatever I want with it. I bet I can even make it smaller now if I want. Oh no, it's still screwed up. Still really screwed up. Anyway, you get the idea. I can also go like this and change the width and height.
Actually, can you press Command T?
Command T.
Selecting the layer, Command T.
Yeah, didn't work.
And then it's Control T.
Control T, didn't work.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's something really weird here. Anyway, the point is I can still rotate me. Oh no, I can't. It's not rotating the, it's not associated with the layer. Anyway, if Photoshop was working properly, I could rotate me or do those kinds of things. Looks at like all I can do right now is move me, right? So
at least you're at the beach.
At least I'm on the beach. Exactly right, guys. Any questions about that? Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to show you if you can bear with me. I'm going to end Photoshop. I wanted to show you just really quickly. Don't save that. Don't save that. I just wanted to show you really quickly one more thing. If you're a professional, you don't like, you wouldn't use Photoshop. You'd use something called Bridge that goes into Photoshop, or you'd use perhaps Lightroom if you're using photography. The thing that I use is actually called Capture One. It's a different kind of program. This is not the most recent version, but I want to show you this because I want to show you how you deal with many, many images at once. Okay, this is, and they might still go into Photoshop, right? That's the whole thing about this. So I'm just going to show you a whole set of pictures at once, so you can see what you can do. That is okay. I don't know what the removable volume is. Oh, it's my card. I don't want you to be looking at my card, guys. Okay, that's fine. So this is actually going to import a bunch of pictures off the card. I don't necessarily want it to do that. So I'm going to point it somewhere else. Look at all of this. Advertising. Thank you. Go away. Go away. And I'm going to go to my hard drive, and I'm going to go to those 2,200 photos. And look, those are all the photos I took for the class in one space. Do you see them? And if I click on them, I can actually look at each one of them very quickly, right? I can see which one I like. I can use this little loop to see if it's in focus or not. Yeah, that's pretty much in focus. It's pretty good. I can see it 100% if I like. I can use multiple monitors, but I can do 99% of the stuff I can do in Photoshop, I can do in here, including layers, adjustments, and all those kinds of things. So if I go like this, I can change the white balance as we were doing it before with raw data, right? So I can pick it, I can pick the white balance. I'm going to pick this thing right here. And the exposure is a little bit off, right?
So this works like Lightroom.
This is, yeah, better than Lightroom.
Better, okay.
I think so, yeah. Lots of people would say no, but it's got better color. This is for phase backs. It's the company that does phase.
I should Okay.
Yeah, if you're serious about it, I think this is the one to use. It's got curves, clarities. I can add a vignette if I want my own vignette. And then I can output it to a thing that Photoshop can also look at too. But see, I can vignette this, right? Make myself stand out as much as I like. I can do layer operations just like I did in Photoshop. The cool thing about this is I can now copy those, right? I can copy all those adjustments, right? With this tool right here. Whoops. Where is it? Where's the copy? I wish they wouldn't change stuff on me here. I can copy the adjustments, right? Right click, right? And then I can select all of these pictures and I can paste the adjustment, right? And I can do that in any number of different places, but here it is. Okay, so they're all going to automatically adjust based on this one that I did.
How do you paste it?
There's copy, this little arrow.
Oh, okay.
There's paste. Or you can right click, right? And you can select any of them, right? And I can just hit that button and it will apply the settings from the original. There it is.
So your method was to select the picture that you like the most and has the most clarity to you, and then make the adjustment, copy the adjustments, and then paste it again.
Correct. If the lighting is the same, then the adjustments will be all the same. And this is how you go from 800 pictures at a wedding.
Yeah.
And you do it without driving yourself crazy. Because if you had to do, each one of these individually, it would drive you nuts. And then you pick the best one. And then you output it, right? You just output it the way you want, right? And I can output batches. I can output any of these types of things, like a full-size PSD if I want, right? And I can output hundreds of them at the time, and it's just a batch output. Okay. Any questions about any of that? I hope that was useful for you guys.
That's pretty good.
Bit of overkill, maybe? I don't know.